We need to get started because I'm anxious to grill this person.
That'll take about 2 minutes.
Should we change chairs here?
No. This is you got the cockpit, man. You're the captain.
All right. You ready? Okay. So welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith. Hey, welcome to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP. I'm Jeff Smith. This is my car buddy Cam Benty and car builder Steve Strope, and we're going to tell you some stories.
Welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions, this time without Jeff Smith. Love Jeff. Jeff is a little busy right now. He's probably pouring a driveway the last time I saw his shop.
He's on vacation.
He's on vacation. Fine. He's never on vacation. He was talking about not ever being retired. Because he's just, but
There's
anyway,
a goal.
Absolutely. So anyway, sponsored by ARP Bolts, ARP Bolts, fasteners, everything you can think of. Buddies of ours, Bob Florine and the whole team over there. They're really good guys to us. The reason we're here is because of them. So that's a very cool thing.
So buy some bolts.
And we're also
Or nuts.
at the Petersen Museum. As you look in the surroundings, and a very important thing here, we've got Rod Emery Motorsports. Rod is the maker of this particular vehicle. I didn't even mention my gentleman here, Steve Strope. Steve.
And I've done some things.
Critical part of this whole operation.
Critical.
But anyway, so part of the reason we came to this particular spot is because of that car and this guy. So Rod is an amazing, he's got an amazing shop, amazing family. Your family's all working with you every day, correct?
Yep.
So they're all on the shop.
4 generations deep.
There you go. That's right. That's true. That's right. I wrote a story for him for a classic car, all about Rod and the stuff he does, because the cars are beautiful. He builds a number of cars, and his shop's in North Hollywood.
North Hollywood.
North Hollywood, so not very far away, and not very far from where your father's shop was originally.
My grandfather.
Grandfather's shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So back in the 40s and 50s, Valley Custom Shop.
There you go. So custom cool stuff.
Now I'm going to interject because now that Cam's given you all the polite versions, what the man does is really amazing, yet something that I look for, I demand of myself in designing and building, and I look for when I'm walking around a car show, regardless of the branding, is tasteful, subtle, blending new with old, intelligent interjection of design, whether it be performance or aesthetic. And he kind of has cornered what they call the outlaw, right, in the Porsche world, which I found lightly
that's your
humorous
brand,
when that was starting. Little background on me.
A Porsche done right.
Well, he designed the ugly out of it.
He did. He did.
You know,
Nice job.
I grew up in a family of hot rodders, right? My grandfather Neil Emery, that had Valley Custom Shop, and he was, kind of the little background on him. Right after the war, he and his brother-in-law Clayton Jensen started a shop right here in Burbank, and one of their first projects they did was for SoCal Speed Shop. They took the belly tanker, did all the louvers, built the headrest for it, and so a lot of early hot rod stuff they were doing. So they did all the metalwork on the belly tanker that Bruce Meyer has, and then
that's the one. That's the one he has.
yeah.
Okay.
But it was gold, and it was gold at the time. So the first version of the SoCal Streamliner was gold. Then Dean Batchelor, who everybody knows.
Dean. Yeah, no,
so,
Dean, good guy.
So Dean was my grandfather's best man in their wedding. So they were best friends. And wow. Dean came back from Europe because Dean was really into, European styling. He loved the European styling of cars. He came back from Europe, kind of napkin sketched an envelope-bodied streamliner and said to my grandfather, he said, this was about 48, 49. He said, you know what, I think we can go over 200 miles an hour, but we've got to close in the wheels and yada, yada. So my grandfather and Alex Exidius and Dean got together and built the SoCal Streamliner, which is it was that envelope-bodied car.
Yep.
So welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith.
Why don't you start that over again?
Should we do that again?
Yeah,
Did I mess that up?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit? Did I slur my words too much?
That's
too
fine.
much enthusiasm.
No, that's
too much.
fine. You can never have too much enthusiasm. Very good. No,
all right.
Go ahead.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. So welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith, brought to you by our friends at ARP-Bolts.com. Great friends of ours who sponsor our show for us. We have a special guest star, Tim Sutton. Cam Benty.
No, Tim Strange.
Tim Sutton.
Let's start again.
I did that. Tim, I'm sorry.
You
Tim's
wouldn't
strange.
want me and Tim Sutton on the same because you did. It'd just be the beat button. It would be like you'd have to censor with me and him together.
I don't know where that came from. Do
That's
not know
okay.
where that. I do know who this guy is. Cam Benty.
I'm equally strange.
Steve is traipsing around somewhere. We want to also thank our friends that help us out with this booth here we're at the Grand National Show. So we're in an undisclosed location, but at the Grand National Show.
Is that the Buick show?
No, I said Grand National Show. Did I?
Grand National Roadster Show.
Did I say Buick? I did.
Would you like me to do the lead-in?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please. Be
Please.
my guest.
Take over, Tim.
I am not a professional.
Take over, Tim.
She going to start this over again?
Stay in here. I can do it. You want me to do the lead-in?
Yeah,
Welcome
please.
to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP, where we're here with industry legends Cam Benty and Jeff Smith.
Ooh.
And of course, ARP, you can get all your bolts and hardware. It's just not where you can get your hair cut, it looks like this weekend. Yeah.
So
At least not the back part.
We should have him sitting in the center. We should have you sitting in. That was very good. That was very good.
That's it.
So my mom told me to stick with magazines. Don't go to TV and radio and things like that. So all right. So let's just dive right in here.
right.
So I read a little bit of stuff about because I honestly I do not know you very well. It's the first time you've ever met.
Obviously, the first time we met at the Street Machine Nationals meant nothing to you.
Right.
Oh, we did.
Were there
When was
Buicks?
that?
Oh, I started going Street Machine Nationals. I was 14 years old.
Really?
St. Louis was my first year ever.
Okay. Okay. Oh my
there
God.
Buicks
St.
there?
Louis.
Yep.
You were
I was
there.
14.
Oh my God.
You weren't
that was
14.
That was almost a disaster.
Yeah,
That
but that
show-
opened my eyes. I mean, that was the age of. I went to my first big show when I was 11 and still opening my eyes. And my uncle took me to big rod runs and custom shows and that. And that was the first big Street Machine show.
Okay.
And it's like, well, these people are crazy. It was Street Machine National Days. man. It was nuts.
Was that the one with the
nuts.
dogs?
This is the first time you've ever met.
Obviously, the first time we met at the Street Machine Nationals meant nothing to you.
Oh, we did.
Were there
when was
Buicks?
that?
Oh, I started going Street Machine Nationals. I was 14 years old.
Really?
St. Louis was my first year ever.
Okay. Okay. Oh my
there
God.
Buicks
St.
there?
Louis.
Yep.
You were
I was
there.
14.
Oh my God.
You weren't
that was
14.
That was almost a disaster.
Yeah, but that
show-
opened my eyes. I mean, that was the age of. I went to my first big show when I was 11 and still opening my eyes. And my uncle took me to big rod runs and custom shows and that. And that was the first big Street Machine show.
Okay.
And it's like, well, these people are crazy. It was Street Machine National Days. man. It was nuts.
Was that
It
the one with
was
the
nuts.
dogs?
No, that was Indianapolis.
Oh, this is
Yeah,
where?
This was St. Louis.
Yeah, I never went to
East,
Indy.
East St. Louis.
Yeah,
East St.
I was
Louis.
14 that year.
Oh my
Lovely
God,
ride.
I'm surprised you survived because
Lovely neighborhood.
that was a. There was one way in and out of that place.
I was a kid, so
Everything was-
My dad always told me to eat up because fat kids are harder to steal, so I was safe. I didn't fit in a trunk very well. It's weird. You do TV for people that kind of do automotive TV, but they're not 100% car people. Why does it take you so long to get that car straight?
Yeah.
And that studio, it was the Power Block. It's now Power Nation, so it's how-to based.
Yeah. Right.
So not every show, like the four-wheel drive show, Ian would take his stuff to the off-road parks and stuff. But like some of the muscle car shows and the trucks, if they filmed a commercial, because that's how they were paid ads, basically.
Right.
Hey, we're putting in this power window system. If they nailed it on the driver's side, that car may never get power windows in the other side because it was a prop car.
Yeah.
So we were one of the first shows out of the 5 that was going on there then that actually tearing it all down, new wiring, new everything, new this. And when I showed up, they said 2 weeks. I go, you guys are out of your mind.
Yeah.
And then they built my studio in the warehouse.
Really?
Miller Welders gives us 6 welders. We've got one welder plug. I love customs, the heart. I grew up with street machines and Tri-5s, but if I could build lead sleds and chopping tops, I just love that. But I grew up going to that, like entertainers and stuff. It's like, oh, I shook the hand of Frank Sinatra. Well, I've shook the hand of George Barris. And of course, Gene Winfield's here this weekend, and he was misbehaving in the bar last night, and he does that. But he's 94 years old. Oh, it's crazy, yeah. And, it's just that, I shook the hand of Barry Lobeck and Boyd Coddington. It's like, those were legends to me. I got cussed out by Gray Baskerville one time. I don't think I'm in a lone club on that.
Hit you with a flip flop.
At the Hot Rod Fest in Indianapolis Fairgrounds. I was there, yeah.
Wow. Gray's usually, at the show, it's afterwards it gets a little crazy.
Well, I was getting a photo shoot
Okay.
with Cole Cornell.
Okay, right. Yeah.
And I didn't know where in the park we were supposed to go. So I said, I see Mr. Gray Baskerville.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me where I'm? what the blankety blank should I know? I'm doing my own shoots. And it was like, that was my first interaction with Gray Baskerville. So.
Sponsored by Old Granddad.
Yeah. He was probably having not a great day. You know, so it was probably really hot.
I interrupted his work, so I get it now. You know, that was like my very first photo shoot. It actually never made the magazine, but
That's okay.
but yeah, so I learned a little bit then.
Hey, we'd like to thank our sponsor, ARP-bolts.com. We got a fantastic little backdrop here. They make an outstanding series of bolts, almost anything you would need for engines, chassis, things like that. In fact, we were at lunch today, and a guy asked you about the bolt on the back of your shirt, and and I said, well, it's really about a head bolt. They neck the stem down of the bolt on a small block Chevy head bolt, so that the clamp load is even across 3 different head bolt lengths on a small block Chevy. And, so that's the kind of technology that you get out of ARP. And we've all got stories on all that stuff.
For a translation of what he said, call ARPbolts.com.
but the message is that you can't get any better than that.
No, you cannot.
There you go.
Nope.
Excellent.
And then just check them out at ARP-bolts.com. We'd like to thank our friends at InTheGarageMedia.com. They have 3 fantastic magazines. They've got Classic Truck Performance, they have Modern Rotting, and my favorite, All Chevy Performance with Nick, my buddy Nick,
Oh, you're
is
so
the editor.
biased.
So
Correct.
yes, of course.
Yes.
But they're doing print media, which
Yes.
is of course our favorite. So
Tangible
color and
magazine.
everything.
in color and everything, and you can get your car on the cover of one of those books, which is
Right.
a fun
that's a
deal.
lot.
Great
Yeah.
tech.
Great
Written
tech.
by you
know,
and others
not always
that are
written by me, but yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
always written by me.
That's right.
Just
So
pick it
check
up and
them out
read it.
at InTheGarageMedia.com, and they're our friends, and they will thank you.
Could we build an IndyCar influenced car, but still make it a traditional roadster?
Okay.
And that's where it kind of started.
Okay.
And so on about
Which is it's a weird eclectic sort of blend
it is,
of two different types of avenues.
It is, but I was a IndyCar nut when I was in school because, and my uncle, my great uncle, was the first chief of tech at Indy.
Really?
Yeah, and
what was
so-
his name? Oh, okay. It's not important.
My first car was a 1956 Oldsmobile
Okay.
that I got some customization done, which was very, very hard in those days. Back in the East, number one, they didn't know, and I was learning everything from magazines out here.
So everything that you look at, and there's a lot of things from the taillights. A lot of people look at the taillights and go, wow, those Packard taillights. Well, they are a one-off handmade bezel. The lenses are 3D printed to resemble a Packard. So there's many things on that car that...
So is there a lot of stuff that's 3D printed on this car?
the taillights and the headlights.
Okay.
Those are 3D printed.
Okay.
That.
You're right,
So
right.
the trunk, you can't see from this picture, but the trunk with the Continental kit's all recessed
okay.
into the trunk.
All right.
And that's all just metal.
That's all metal
The roof
forming.
is all out of aluminum tubing, and then it's wrapped in a
Really?
surfboard. It's actually shaped in a surfboard foam.
Okay.
And then it's wrapped in the canvas material.
Okay.
Washington, D.C. has decided that you don't need to get a ticket every time, and they're not going to pull you over.
It's a
for
gentler,
tickets.
kindler-
They're going to send you a text and say, "Don't do this,"
and
you go
scold
into,
you.
scold you,
Scold
and then you
you.
go into
Which
their
apparently
database.
you should
of
be reading
dangerous-
while you're driving.
Exactly.
You know what? All of you out there, if you could just send me thumbs down, I'll laugh all day long.
They talked about this, the fact that at the beginning, before they went out to qualify, that they said, well, we're going to start you at the back of the field because we expect you to be very, very slow.
Did you
That's
see-
what this was. So then after they qualified, they said, oh, no, we're going to have to start you in front of the GTE class because you're too fast. We don't want you blasting through.
Right. They were faster than all the
They had
GTE
to
cars.
flip-flop the whole thing. So
Yes.
I understand now that there's rumor that they may create a class for the car for
Yes,
next year.
I understand there's a class
Yeah?
next year, but
Yeah.
things change. 0 to 100, back to zero in like 12 seconds.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
said that to Shelby, and this was the funniest thing. And he goes, "That was just Miles screwing around on the airport deal. I don't know what the number is. It's just Miles telling me that was the number." So, and he did it with a stopwatch while he's driving. So I was like, well, I think it was 13.4. I think
And
that's what it
yes,
was.
and that's now set in lore.
Yes,
Right. It's
it
actually
is.
set in stone.
But Shelby said it was just Miles screwing around on the airport using a stopwatch. I was like, wow, good to hear that. That legendary stop
Precision.
that precision deal.
Precision timing.
And he's eating a taco, I think.
I got it.
Yeah, stopwatch,
That's
shifting,
right.
drying.
That's
yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Dropping my
Amazing.
groceries and getting punched by Shelby.
Cool thing was, I had never met Vin Diesel at that time, but it's kind of standard protocol. You have to give them you don't want to say this is what you're driving. You always have to say, hey, I got a few cars for you. Which one do you like? So it definitely had to be a Mopar. So there's a couple other cars I knew that were around. I mean, none of them were remotely in the same caliber as Steve's car, but nonetheless, you bring a couple cars out and it's always it's like I guess it's one of my skills. I only have like 3, but one of them would be to persuade, hey, like make it obvious which car is the one. It's a similar deal. Like we took a lot of time, where I was going to park, the Hammer, and the other cars would be maybe off to the side, maybe the wrong, but whatever. It was a sure thing. I mean, I had no doubt going in. I mean, I think I always said, well, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I was extremely confident.
Yeah.
Because the car was, like I said, it was miles.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Huge.
For
Huge,
sure.
huge,
So a
huge.
few people have heard his name.
Absolutely.
From the obscure cars like Cadzilla.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, or
Right,
Shazam
right.
or something like that. You might have heard those.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, we're here. We got, I picked up a truck that my dad built in '89. I picked it up last year, and it's kind of a famous truck that my dad built. And I got a call from Carpo, I don't know, maybe a few months after that, saying, hey, we're doing a special truck exhibit. And you got that truck back. We want that in the exhibit.
What were the cars that were significant to you? I mean, we talk about Cadzilla because that was near and dear to you.
It's just a seminal
Are you
car.
talking about cars that my dad built?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Probably Shazam.
Shazam,
Got the most
yeah.
memories
The
with that one.
The 57.
Yes.
Yeah,
That was an awesome
I
car.
got a story I've told before where my dad.
Tell it again.
My dad goes, hey, because my dad was on this thing where people were going, hey, he makes trailer queens. My dad's, I'm going to show them, right? So the infamous trip with Baskerville, Luma Coupe, and then my dad followed it up with, he said, hey, we're going to take the week off. We're going to drive Shazam to Good Guys, Indy.
And Indy. Okay. So cross country.
P-bolts.com for helping us out, sponsoring this whole thing.
You got that. You got that.
I did,
you got it
I
this
did
time.
it well. There's usually 10 takes where I don't do that, and then every once in a while we get it right. And then also our friends with the Grand National Roadster Show.
That's right.
Because I somehow managed to put Buick in there the last time.
Grand
because
National Buick Show?
Well, because I think of Grand National Buicks. Cars are in my head. I don't recognize people. I only recognize cars.
Nice.
I had a friend here yesterday, a guy I've known for years, Gary Kolosky, and I completely whiffed on
You're
who he was.
Fiero.
Oh my God, it was so
That's an
embarrassing.
insult.
I am getting old, man. And he goes, "It's okay. I'm older than you are." But it was so embarrassing. Anyway, wait.
First off, before we begin, I just want to say, because usually I try to dress okay, but today I stepped it up because usually Mike is one of the only other guys that see him dressed well.
He's dapper.
He
is you're saying?
understands. And I'm like, I can have my little buddy, Robert Graham, and I show up and he's got a flannel
You
on.
put enough thought into this.
Oh,
Did you?
I did.
You
I was-
dressed for the
there
occasion
I was.
here.
There I was.
I wanted to be like Steve.
Yeah,
dressing for success.
Oh, that's what you wanted.
Dress to the tax.
So now I just look overdressed. So anyway.
Well, there's rare times when I actually wear something other than a T-shirt. It's just cold, so that's why I got my sweatshirt on.
Cold.
Cold in this room.
Cold.
It's cold back in Iowa.
So we also need to announce that Mike Ring
yes,
and the illustrious vehicle that he brought is actually over here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
You're all the way over here.
It's a long jaunt.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah,
a
it
long
is.
way.
Sure.
And it's sure been nice. We went to Barrett Jackson, tried to see if we could win a little money to come to this place. That didn't work out, but I'm glad we came anyway because this is
my favorite show.
this is-
This is
oh,
my
yeah, I
favorite
I think
show.
only Barrett Jackson makes money at those shows,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that
Oh,
what
yeah.
happens?
Yeah, you know that, right? Oh, they.
yeah. That'll be the last I think that I'll spend, but not here. This place is amazing.
So
Yeah.
can we talk about the car?
Well,
Whatever
of
you
course,
want
why
to.
do you think the boy's here?
Well, just
I believe
checking.
it's a truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to
Well, it
start
started as a truck.
Yeah. Now this was kind of a backdoor project, sort of a way.
It
in the
really
beginning?
was. It was a guy first came to us. He doesn't want us to mention his
Oh,
name.
wait. We have to pretend not everybody who watches this knows everything we're talking about. So
Okay, well-
Mike Ring has a place with his brother Jim called Ring Brothers. is it ringbrothers.com?
Correct.
Right. So you go there and check out the bottomless array of unbelievable cars. If you don't know who they are, and parts, that's
thanks.
right. Real cool stuff to purchase for your own little ride, right? So I'm sure if you're watching this 20 to 1, you already know who they are and the endless amount of accolades that they've deserved and received. So they had a truck that was unveiled at SEMA that, landslided everything. And they've brought it out here. Like you said, you were at the Barrett-Jackson gig for a little bit, then swung by here to let everybody else see it. Because SEMA, as broadcasted as it is still a closed industry situation. Here it is open to the public, like at Barrett-Jackson.
And a large public.
Yeah, and a large group of people who
long line to get in here this morning.
Yeah. So they're letting a whole bunch of people enjoy all their hard work and their absolutely stunning creation. So that being said, so you've got it here. And so he said it was like a backdoor deal.
Well, yeah, it started out, honestly, the owner was at Barrett-Jackson. No, I got back up. He's a big boat guy, big motor, everything he does is fast, boats, everything. So he had these twins, supercharged, 200 grand a piece motors that were just insane, 3,000 horsepower. Problem was they're 48 inches from the oil pan to the top of the supercharger.
Sure.
So he brought one to the shop, and he's like, I want to build a truck. And we're like, tape measure.
Not with that.
So we talked to old friend Carl Wagner, who was our engine builder, a great man. And he's like, you dumbasses, that lake couldn't cool that thing. How do you think you're going to make that run? So we kind of told him we can't build anything. I mean, we just can't do it. We can't fit it. And it bummed him out. So he shelved it, and he then went to Barrett-Jackson after a while and came back and he says, let's just re-go after that. Because we had done some renderings for him. And he said, let's go after that truck project again. And then they had this motor, which was, an LS.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what LS is.
The Carl Wagner motor.
Yeah. Well, actually, it wasn't the Carl. It was by the same engine builder, Todd Goodwin in Wisconsin also.
Okay.
But it was this 510 cubic inch LS, big, all motor, no boosters, making 1,000. Because this guy, he wanted a rat rod.
Okay.
So
that's not a rat rod.
Don't tell him that, because that's what we told him it was.
It's a floating definition.
Yeah,
right?
it's a floating rat rod. So that's kind of how it started. He went back at it and really has just been a prince of a man and let us build. You don't get that opportunity to build things.
Right.
Most people want to see somebody had already done something, a Fairlane to a Camaro to. Yeah. It's hard to get somebody to spend money on something they've never seen or nobody's really done.
Yeah, there's no real vision other than maybe a rendering on a piece of paper.
Yeah, and then it's like, what's the, but it was something he wanted, and if the rest of the world liked it, it would be great, but if they didn't, he really didn't care.
Didn't really care.
So it was a pretty special project to go in that in-depth in something that's that goofy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Now with giant slicks on it.
Yeah.
Was the intention originally to take it out and be aggressive with it on a track or something?
Yeah, but we do have street tires for it too. So it was meant, but it just looks too mean with the slicks on it versus.
Because what it has that vibe of the modified, right? Those are usually offset engines, but other than that, it certainly has that vibe. Yeah.
And the world today with Formula One and all the things in the world of Formula One, how big it's becoming, kind of gave it that little Formula One Indy feel, and it was cool to step out. And
Open wheel.
Open wheel.
Open wheel. There you go. And honestly, it's probably the only car we've ever done that, renderings always look amazing. But they can't steer, right? They got the tires darked out and slammed and
right up against the wheel wells.
And it looks amazing.
What are you talking about? Everything's doable in this car.
But it's
Ask every one of the artists.
Yeah. So people are like, when you build it, they're like, it's not like the rendering. It's like, can't make it work.
Right.
Yeah, because there's things like gravity, physics.
Yeah. But
those
open
boring
wheel
things
is
like that.
It's something you
Reality.
can actually, it looks like the rendering.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you saw the rendering, it looks like the rendering because you can make it work.
Sure.
With open
We'll
wheel.
be putting the rendering up right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have to get you it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
we will. We'll fashion it up.
Yeah.
Hopefully of your car.
Yeah.
So.
The 3-year-old rendering goes, it's the only rendering we can find. Sorry.
That's my nephew's version of a walrus. And
so what trans is in it?
We got with Mark Bowler. It's got a transaxle in it.
Okay.
So we exposed the torque tube through the whole thing.
Okay.
So the transaxle, but most of those vets always had like a 4L60, 65, and Mark knew a guy that did a lot of road racing. Put a 4L80 in it.
Okay.
Kind of wanted a manual, but the guy didn't want the manual.
Okay,
but
yeah,
for me,
that
it was
would have
like,
fit. That really would have fit
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
But it does. We made this
Especially
really,
a sequential transmission
Yeah,
where you
exactly.
just bang the
Just
handle.
bang
and,
it.
oh, that'd be just so awesome. But it still works.
So it works.
It still works.
We made a really, I think, bitchin' shifter. It's all titanium. We made it all, and it's mounted off the torque tube we exposed, and it's just been just been one of them projects that you get probably once in a lifetime to do.
Sure.
And
So we'd like to thank our sponsor, ARP and ARP-bolts.com. And we all three build cars. We all work on this stuff. And
I tinker.
You tinker.
I tinker.
Yes, we all build.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of a really cool multiple purpose fastener for me, because there's all the science and all the technology, which is bottomless. Trust me. Unbelievable amount of research that they put into these things.
Absolutely.
And on top of it, you get them out of the package, and they're absolutely beautiful, which I've joked before. It's like jewelry for your car. And when
pre-oiled,
we're building when we're building a high-end car, there isn't anything else going on it. It's part of the criteria for me to have them lining the engine bay, not just on the engine, everywhere.
Yeah.
So you get all the strength, the durability, the reliability, and fantastic good looks.
Sure.
Kind of like Jeff here.
And without peer. Without peer.
And you know what?
Or pair.
Without peer, there's nobody else that does what they do.
It is. So check them out at ARP-bolts.com, and they can help you out. Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith, brought to you by our friends at ARP-bolts.com.
Well done.
Thank you very much. So, as you can tell, we're someplace new.
From the reverberation.
Yes, but it's worth it, because this place is really cool. We're at the Petersen Museum, and
cars are heavier.
So cars are heavier. I've been there 24 years, and so the load ratings that we run now just keep inching up and up and up. And now with EVs, so EVs, they're not just Priuses. They're literally high performance EVs that now weigh another 1,200 pounds more than a comparable sedan or something. And so the load ratings, and so we're having to make things a lot stronger, but then do everything we can to make sure that it's still high performance wheels. So we need to reduce the mass as much as possible. So we use a lot of computer simulation and a lot of computer analysis to make that happen.
And that's a significant load that a lot of people don't take into consideration, because I remember we did a test a long time ago, Carcraft, where we had a heavy set of steel wheels, accelerated the car, the drag strip, brought it back, put some lightweight wheels on, and the car went, I think, 1/1500ths of a second quicker. So because of the mass.
Unsprung weight.
It's unsprung weight, number one, but it's acceleration.
Mass.
Yeah, that's rotational inertia. So
and the further out you go.
Exactly. So the way rotational inertia works is it's mass distribution about the rotational center. So you don't want to have a lot of heavy mass far away from that center axis. And so as wheels get bigger and bigger and bigger, which they are, to clear the bigger and bigger brakes, you're getting a lot more rotational inertia. And so that affects acceleration, and more important, it affects deceleration, right? So it's going to take more energy to stop.
Because the object in motion tends to stay in motion.
And so that's why our highest end product, we have a carbon fiber barrel, which is going to take that and reduce that even more. Right.
I was going to mention that, because I know you were just over the years of talking with you, you were outside sourcing the carbon barrel, and
and that is still the case. No, we still are.
I thought you were going inside now.
The difference is we are working exclusively with our technical partner. So we went to them, and we worked with them to develop the constraints and the design. I mean, all the design constraints, and we had input on some of the material choices. We're not carbon. I used to be a carbon fiber expert 30 years ago, but I'm not anymore. And so we're wheel experts. So together we designed a part together, and then they're making it for us exclusively for us. Yeah. But because of that, we think we have the best carbon fiber rim on the market.
We just have to say thank you for the Petersen people letting us do this, because this was not, this is not normal for us, but at the same time, it's very, very cool.
And we're starting slow. They stuck us in the basement. Yeah. Don't want to be.
Quite frankly, this is where we want to be.
They don't want to even admit we're here.
It's where all the cool cars are.
True, there is.
Every floor has some very cool stuff on it, and it has changed significantly since the first.
Oh my goodness!
In the very beginning,
unbelievable.
Then it was redone, and then redone again.
That's right.
Right, and so we're in the third iteration, and this is my first time back with the third iteration, really? And I have not been here in a long time, and it's extremely nice. I mean, so come here.
World class,
yes,
level
absolutely.
of museum.
Absolutely.
Even the European car magazines, which I get. Believe it or not, I'm not as much of a caveman as you think.
I am.
Okay, good. Have also put in print that they've visited this and said this is.
It is.
The Petersen is now.
Yeah.
In their eyes, considered one of the world's best automotive museums, and it is.
We worked here. I worked for Petersen for over 30 years, so you kind of downplay it all because it's just but it's not just a job, and this is not just a museum. This is really something very, very special, and you tend to. I think it changed my perspective of having left and then come back, right? And now being back here for the first time in quite a while, it's very, very special. So it's exciting, and it's a little bit like coming home. So
so the design freedom that you get with 3D printing just opens up a whole new world for us, and so.
And all of that passes whatever crash tests and stress tests and
all of their designs, regardless of how we're going to make it, whether it's 3D printed, whether it's just normal forged aluminum or cast or carbon fiber or anything, we're going to go through a very similar set of design constraints in terms of structural, because it is, at the end of the day, it's a safety thing, right? So we just need to be safe.
So serious loads being put on these things.
Absolutely.
And with more power that everybody's making now, speeds are much higher. It just puts the loads even greater.
So cars are heavier. I've been there 24 years, and so the load ratings that we run now just keep inching up, and now with EVs. So EVs, they're not just Priuses. They're literally high performance EVs that now weigh another 1,200 pounds more than a comparable sedan or something.
So for me, it was just taking a Porsche and just kind of applying some of those techniques and kind of methods that I learned from my family. And just using a little different vehicle. And
well, what's the genesis of this? I mean, obviously, this is now a 25-year-old car. It doesn't look like it at all, but it's got a great story. And you actually, practically, you use this for how many? Like 5,000-mile drive?
So the original nose of the car is actually on the rear of the car, which kind of lengthened the tail of the car, which gives it a little bit more of a, little rounded. Yeah, and then built into the back a trailer hitch. And then restored a little aluminum German Ariba Puch trailer. And my son was a month old. Was newly married, about 3 years into a marriage.
Felony arrest and journalism.
And journalism.
You can get both of those.
Yes.
Do you guys
motorcycles
and
motorcycles.
Do you guys have that?
Yeah. And
Not going to talk about
I wrote to him and said, and he goes, okay, you like drag racing? Go and do a story about drag racing. So I did, and I got paid. And I thought, man, this is good. I would have gone anyway. I would have paid to get in, but now I'm getting in for free. I'm getting a press pass. I'm getting on the track, and I'm getting paid for the story.
More motivation than anybody needs.
That's all you need. And it's just that one, and it's seeing that opportunity and sort of knowing, I'm going to go for that.
But they are die-hard car fans.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Right.
I've heard that.
I mean, they're ridiculously, car fans. And when they come here and they see, say, a General Motors car, and they go, we got the Holden.
Holden, right.
Yeah, we got the Holden. People go, what's the Holden? Well, it's a General Motors car, right? But ours are different, right? Or the Falcon, the real Falcon, the muscle car Falcon.
Yeah,
like the Mad Max.
The Mad Max,
which was what was the name of that?
The XB, and that was, I think that put Australia on the map, and also the car, because a lot of people want to make the kits and stuff like that.
Yeah, when that movie came out, we got calls from people going, how do I build a blower where I could flip the switch and the blower starts spinning? And I go, you can't do that. Not easily.
Well, one of the guys that was on that movie actually lives here. And he and I did we did a documentary on We haven't released it yet, but it's Australian muscle cars versus US muscle cars.
Okay, that sounds like fun.
So we filmed here in the US, and then we went to Australia. We filmed in Brisbane, which is north of Sydney, Sydney, and then Melbourne. Yeah. And we interviewed all these different people, and you'd be surprised. Even though these people had Australian cars, you will see, Chargers in their garage and all these, American cars that they had. Like, they want their Aussie cars, but they want the equivalent of what it was here in the United States. Yeah. And we had the Valiant. The Valiant was the basically the Valiant was this 7-liter thing, and it was really the cheap version. But of course now it's such a collectible.
Sure.
Weren't they lighter?
7 liter?
Were they lighter than the cars that we had here or not?
They were lighter. The only problem we had in Australia is a rust.
Okay.
Yeah.
The rust was really bad. The cars came out, and even
the steering wheel.
Well, you know what was funny was the foreign cars like the Alphas.
Yeah.
They would sit on the wharf waiting for compliance. And then 6 months later, the rust on the bottom of the doors.
Yes.
Right? Because there was no seals, and so
That's sea air.
Yeah.
And the rust cost nothing.
Yeah.
It cost nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It was part of the deal. But
Extra charger.
Yeah, but Australian cars are really. They're very similar. I mean, we had they
had the Clevelands and small blocks.
We had the Clevelands.
Right.
We had Windsors, and it's such an icon, motor when you think about it. They brought out this car in Australia. It was called the I forget the name of the car, but it was a Leyland. Remember Leyland?
Leyland,
Yes, sure.
And we had Leyland in Australia. It was called the P76.
Okay.
And this thing had a trunk that you could have 12 parties in and invite friends. This thing was absolutely
Massive.
huge. The car was absolutely crap. But what was good, right, is if you took the engine out, the Leyland engine in, and you put in a Ford or GM motor, and then the car was perfect. So, look, I love the projects. I did I had a 55 Cadillac.
Nice.
Series 62 that I drove in the Rose Parade.
Okay.
Nice.
It was the lead car. And I had the privilege and honor to have Jana Carter was one of the people, Nuke Rockney III.
Really?
Which, of course,
Wow.
never met his grandfather, and Dick Vermeil.
Okay.
And I'm not a big American football. I like, obviously rugby. But we drove that in the Rose Parade. But what happened was, they put it on a trickle the night before. They didn't put it on a 12-volt. They put it on a 6.
Uh-oh.
And so guess what?
Yeah.
The car didn't drive. And so I don't know about you, but being towed for 4 miles, right, with literally no power steering, after that I could pump 300 pounds above my head by turning that thing, because that thing is like a tank.
Oh, yeah.
Beast. Yeah.
But that car was a
cars, though.
classic.
Yeah, beautiful car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful blue, and I took all the chrome off, and I got the book and looked at the parts, and and the car was a beauty. I mean, obviously, it got picked for the Rose Parade. I don't think I would do that again. And
I just got invited to Brazil. I wrote a story about Troy Ladd, mentioned a guy who works for Troy Ladd who comes from Brazil. Next minute, I get a call from Troy. He goes, "You want to go to Brazil?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Let's go." So we went to Brazil and did a story on their big custom show, which is mega, huge, bigger than the Grand National Roadster Show. 35,000 people in 2 days.
Wow.
Absolutely stunning. Really incredible.
Well, how fun
Bit
is
of
that?
a mixed up scene, but again, those things happen to you because,
And the idea was we're going to do something that is interesting to every part of car culture, but it's also evolving and changing.
Yeah.
So we need to be a part of that as well. Where our mission statement used to be that we would collect, preserve, and present the history of the automobile, it's now the history and future of the automobile.
McLaren exhibit is stunning. Bruce's area is awesome. You just have such a variety. The Tesla exhibit is amazing. I mean, that exploded view of the Tesla with, I mean, these are not simple. These are not simple displays.
No,
these are really amazing things that you just don't see anywhere else. And that's
Tesla might
amazing.
be the most elaborate exhibit that we've ever done. But I
can see.
hats off to Tesla.
We should get a shot of that to make sure we display that.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
And they had a number of people. I mean, a large number of people at Tesla helping to put this thing together because it's so complex.
Yeah.
When we were doing the installation, they flew a crew of 12 Egyptians in who were specialists worldwide for installations. Because when you look at it, you can see how much heavy equipment and things are in there.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Egyptians,
they're heavy cars.
Huh.
But we did, when we transformed the museum, I mean,
Yes.
the museum opened in '94.
Right.
But really nothing changed for 20 years.
Correct.
That's true.
At all.
Yeah.
And that may have been
Because
why
the,
it
because the
became,
first floor with all the dioramas
yes,
and everything,
right.
and
Yeah.
that was such an intensive thing that it had to stay that way to justify to rationalize the thing.
But it killed them. I mean,
Really?
it was,
Okay.
because there was nobody coming.
Right.
People, the majority of people would come once and then
see
there's
it, and
nothing,
that was it.
no
Okay.
reason to
Correct.
come back because nothing changed.
So from a business standpoint, it wasn't necessarily a good idea.
It was a horrible idea,
Okay.
but it was built by the Natural History Museum. The museum, Bob Petersen gave them the money to put his name on it, and he owned the building. So it opened as the Petersen by the Natural History Museum.
Okay.
He never got along with them.
No.
So 7 years later, he put up the funds, bought the bonds. I think he gave him $15 million initially, and then $25 million later, and took it as the Petersen, owned by the Petersen Foundation. And so it was in. What really happened was that Bruce Meyer turned 70 and said, "Things have got to change. Things have got to change."
Well,
and he
thanks to
started.
him,
That's when he
great.
really started to
Right.
get his
Right.
own museum really together.
Right.
And then decided we needed a new director here.
You thought I was bad. My new social media.
I don't
kids
think
in
we
the
got
room
any
going,
of
"What the
that.
hell?
But,
What is wrong with these?
seriously, you guys.
These
And
friggin'
don't- I
dinosaurs.
and there are 20-year-olds going, "Oh my God."
What a bunch of idiots.
My brother's got
What's
one.
a flip
My
phone?
brother's got a regular phone.
A regular
He gets pissed.
phone.
You gotta get a phone. Everybody calls me looking for you, and I'm like, I would not own a phone if my wife. But it's
Again,
so
with a wife.
sweet out here that look at it, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Even better.
Okay, so we're all going to guess that
You
it's
guys let them know where to get a
ringbrothers.com.
hold of us, right?
Yeah.
Ring Brothers.
You can Google it. You
Can't
can Google it and find it
Ring Brothers,
really
doesn't
quickly.
It tell you
Just
from there?
search it.
So
or-
which is a great backhanded way of telling you really need to come there because now
Yeah.
it's a search to go find
Yeah.
it.
Well, now
There
it's a
you go.
challenge to see if they have anything.
Yeah, I have to find it. It's
Figure
a
it out.
quest. It's a quest.
Yeah.
Where's Mike Ring?
Weren't you guys just talking about the Petersen and how you just did it and they come? That's the same way with us.
There it
you go.
is.
There you go. Yeah.
Ay,
It
ay,
still
ay.
works.
It
It
still
still
works
works.
the
It's the
same
greatest interview end ever. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
Well, thank you guys.
Hey, listen,
Yeah,
thanks for
very
coming
welcome.
up. This was a
Thank
great
you.
time. We had a great time. We're again here.
Great to be here.
We're here at the Grand National Roadster Show. We want to give a shout out to those guys. They gave us our little spot here.
Sure.
And they're wonderful people to work
Thanks,
with.
John.
And
Thanks, Kevin.
That's right. So thanks again to those guys. And of course, our friends at ARP-Bolts.com, because without them, we'd be
Not
paddling,
much, yeah.
paddling the canoe, right?
Without
And
the paddle.
with our hats. So
There's really
Where
a
did that come
bad
from?
head shaking on the other side of the camera.
we're just having too much fun here. So again, thanks for watching. Ring the bell, do all that stuff.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Is that it? Okay. And we'll just keep telling you stories.